Welcome to Pullback. This is future Kyla introducing the episode. Trying to be a good person can be overwhelming in our complex global marketplace. In this podcast, we try to make it a little easier by looking at the details behind consumer movements, product labels, and ethical lifestyles. Each episode, we challenge ourselves to try something new in ethical consumption, and then we tell you what we learned, fuck-ups and all. So this week, we were joined by Kieran and Matty D from Potential Spoilers to talk about movies. In the first episode that we released earlier this week, we talked about some problems in Hollywood, and we talked about some independent movies that we went to see as part of our challenge. And then what we thought would be a fun way to finish this crossover episode would be to take a leaf from Kieran and Matty D's books and create some ethical plots. So that's what we're going to talk about now. You're going to be dropped in right when we started that part of our challenge, which was to come up with the most ethical movies that we could. This was recorded in February, before COVID-19 was declared a pandemic, so the tone is a little bit different. And of course, the movie industry is on hiatus right now, but this is still a really fun episode. It made me laugh to edit it. I hope you guys can get some enjoyment out of it. Okay, cool. Let's move on to the second challenge that I gave you guys, which was something I was really looking forward to. I think for people who've listened to both podcasts, they'll appreciate what I've done here. But I asked you guys to make the most ethical movie you could. And I left it really vague. But I think we're going to start with Kristen because she's really worried about hers and I want her to rip it off like a Band-Aid.
Yes, thank you.
I'm sure it's great.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I had started to come up with a concept for mine, and then I went back and did my prep for listening to your podcast, and I realized that, I was not doing the right thing at all. So I changed it, and hopefully it's the right format now. So we'll see. My idea is not so much funny as it is a movie that I actually think would be an ethical movie to make. So
okay,
yeah. So I decided the easiest way to come up with a plot was to just turn a book into a movie. Seems to be the easiest way to go.
Adaptation.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the book that I chose is a book called An Ocean of Minutes, and it's written by a woman named Thea Lynn, who's a Toronto-based writer. I read it about a year ago, and it's really good. So I'll go over the plot. Have you guys ever wanted to watch a time travel movie, but then thought, this is way too fun, I wish everything was a lot sadder?
Yeah,
Every
always.
time I watch a time travel movie.
That's why I watch Primer. Where are the tragic time travel movies at?
Have I got the film for you? So the film is set in this alternative version of 1980s Buffalo, New York. So lots of acid-wash denim, shoulder pads, that kind of thing. And the main character, Polly, is living with her boyfriend, Frank, doing whatever people from Buffalo do, which I imagine really isn't that different from what people in Toronto do, across a lake from each other. So in this version of the 1980s, there's a company called Time Razor that has invented time travel. And unfortunately, in this version of the 1980s, the world is also in the middle of a deadly flu pandemic. So there's people dying everywhere.
Topical.
Yeah, topical, yeah. No, yeah, people are dying everywhere. It's chaotic. It's all over the globe. And the good news is that there actually is a cure for this illness. Unfortunately, the bad news is that in this version of the 1980s, the cure is basically owned by companies and it's really expensive. So Frank gets infected. Polly's super upset. He's a bartender and she's a student, so neither of them can afford it. So when Time Razor offers to heal Frank in exchange for 5 years of bonded labor that Polly would have to serve in the future, she takes the deal. So they make a plan to meet up in 1993, but then when Polly's actually sent to do her bonded labor, she's sent an extra 5 years into the future and all of their plans get messed up. Also in this shitty version of the 1980s and 1990s, the pandemic has basically split America into two countries. So Polly basically ends up in a different country entirely. She has no status, no money, knows nobody. And she also has to basically work in debt bondage for this company for a few years. So the movie basically would follow Polly as she tries to survive in this new reality, all the while she's clinging to this hope that she'll be reunited with her boyfriend. And at first, Polly has sort of a relatively cushy job restoring antique furniture. But her supervisor fucks her over and she gets moved to a worse job with worse pay, where she's basically riding a bicycle all day just to power the air conditioning for a tourist resort. Along the way, you meet other characters. Most of them are in shitty situations and they're doing shitty things to each other. And then there's sort of like a bunch of rosy flashbacks to the 1980s as well. Because this is a real book, I didn't want to spoil the endings, so I'll just say... Does Polly ever work her way out of debt bondage? Will she earn enough money to buy a visa? Will she find Frank? Is Frank dead? Is this all a clunky metaphor for America's migration issues? Watch to find out.
Wow. Lovely.
And can I ask, who did you have in mind to play the two leads, Polly and Frank?
Yeah, so I actually did find an actress that I was fairly happy with. I don't think anyone really will have heard of her. Maybe some Canadians, but... Her name's Kawana Harry Devery Jacobs, and she's an Indigenous Canadian actress. And you might know her. I don't know if any of you guys have watched American Gods, but she played Sam Crow.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So she was a small character on that, but she's also played like a few big roles in Canadian film, and I just thought that would be good from sort of a representation perspective. For actor. I was like, I don't know. It's very difficult because like the character of Frank has to age 20 years. So you need somebody that looks like a lovable dirtbag, but you can also make him look 20 years older. So I was like, I don't know, Adam Driver?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Well, he's popular at the moment.
That was what I voted for.
Yeah, definitely.
She asked me, she's like, who should I cast? And she gave me a couple of names and I was like, I vote for Adam Driver. I have a huge crush on him.
Give him a mustache and he's older.
He has a lot of range as well, so I could see him do it.
Yeah. He punched a wall in Marriage Story. He's perfect. And by any chance, have you seen the movie 12 Monkeys?
No.
It was one of Brad Pitt's early movies.
He's great
that's
in that.
Right. Bruce Willis, Brad Pitt. It's
He
about
is,
a
yeah.
virus that in the future kills everybody, so they use time travel to go back and try and prevent the virus.
They
from
ripped off the
happening.
book.
Oh, yeah, they must have ripped off that book.
They must have ripped off that book.
Amazing.
Kristen, was there anything else you wanted to add about your movie, or?
The only other pick that I had for that one was that I picked Denis Villeneuve as the director.
That was going to be my next question. Yeah.
Yeah. Canadian national treasure.
And what has he done?
Oh my gosh, so much stuff. So people probably will have seen Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, and I mean, Dune is coming up. But the one that I want to shout out is this really fucked up Quebecois film that he did called Maelstrom. I don't know if any of you guys saw that movie.
Absolutely not.
No, I can't say I have.
It's the weirdest film I've ever seen, but it was really critically acclaimed. It's about this woman who kills a fishmonger while she's drunk driving, and she basically ends up in a relationship with the fishmonger's son, and at one point, the fishmonger's ashes get poured all over her, and the whole thing is narrated by a talking fish that's being decapitated with a butcher's knife constantly the entire time.
Okay.
Let's check it out.
A very strange film.
Right after this.
I have heard of this movie, actually. That does ring a bell.
Yeah. You probably had to watch it in high school French class, Kyla.
Oh,
Right.
well, I did not
Wow.
take high school French. Lucky me.
Either did we down here.
So do you guys want to go next, or do you want me to go next?
Yeah, we're happy to go next.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Because we worked together on this one. We put our brains together to try to come up with something. Now, I just want to say, I really wanted to do a Captain Planet movie, but that got vetoed early on. So
I wanted to do an original concept.
So we wanted to create an original concept, and we tried to make our movie both ethical and marketable. So
Yep.
we tried to make it into a blockbuster. So you probably
So
will
we
get
wanted
that.
to make a movie that people would actually go and see. I'm not saying that they wouldn't see Kristen's movie. I'm sure they would, but I
definitely would.
wanted to be as mass
your back,
market
Kristen.
as possible. So we wanted to try and get as many bums in seats as possible. So it's going to be PG rated.
Yeah.
It's going to be for all audiences, but it's going to have an edge to it that's going to appeal to everybody, not just kids and teens.
Yeah.
So another thing that we did, we didn't want to hire anybody based on their gender, their appearance, their sexuality, or their race. So we'll get into that in a sec, who exactly is going to play our lead characters.
Also, just blanket statement, a lot of the stuff that we talked about early on in the podcast, we're all using ethical things at backstage.
Yeah, that's right. So the
just blanket statement.
the film is being shot digitally.
It's
so
environmental.
It's not being shot on celluloid. I don't know, they're using renewable energy to run the light. They're using solar-powered lights, I guess.
No animals were legitimately harmed in the movie.
There's no paper scripts. All the scripts are on iPads. They're all digital scripts. And we wanted the movie... Oh, I guess this may not work, but we can say that it's worked into the plot anyway. We wanted the movie to pass the Bechdel test, where, as we discussed earlier, where there's two women in a scene who are named characters who can have a conversation that isn't about a man. Now, we also didn't want to include a romantic subplot, but we caved and we included one anyway for the sake of interest. So I thought we'd ask you guys to help us out as we go along with a couple of these elements.
Nice.
And I thought as well that you guys might be able to roleplay a little bit, not too intently, as the producers that we're pitching this movie to. So you get to basically decide all the major casting decisions. And I guess to a lesser extent as well, the director too, because we didn't even consider that.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a few things that we prompt you on as we go through it. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with in conjunction with us.
Yeah, so essentially we wanted to create characters that were castable with, as Kieran said, in real, like without gender assigned sort of characteristics or sexuality assigned characteristics. So there may be a point where we'll ask you guys who you think should be cast in this particular role, just based on their traits.
Just the first person that comes to your mind.
Just the first person comes to your mind. If you guys don't know,
you have to decide between the two of you.
If you guys don't know particular actors, that's fine. Just even if you said the person from this TV show, that's totally fine as well.
Okay.
Or movie.
So, of course, because we've decided to make the movie as mass market as possible, of course, we decided to make a superhero movie.
Which we love on our show.
Yeah, now anybody who's listened to our show knows that I don't really like superhero movies, so this was kind of a struggle to make something that, A, hadn't really been done, and B, would appeal to audiences that don't like superhero movies. So maybe in not liking them myself, I can create one that people like myself will actually find appealing. So basically, it's not going to be an origin story because nobody makes superhero origin stories anymore.
And Kieran hates origin stories as well.
I'm so sick of origin stories, so I don't want another one. So they're already established superheroes. There's 4 of them who live on an island in the middle of the ocean in a big superhero-esque base. But, of course, it's not a real island. It's created through CGI because we don't want them filming in a real island location, as we discussed earlier.
So our 4 superheroes, the team that we have, are all based on elements because we're fitting in with an ethical environmental theme, but only very, very subtly. And they're each different types of superhero as well, like superheroes that you may have seen in other superhero movies. So I'll just quickly list them now. And as we go through, I just want you guys to decide who is going to play the character just based on what their name is and what their abilities are. Yeah. So the first superhero that we have is an Earth-based elemental person. So this person has a suit, I believe, that they've created kind of like Iron Man or... I don't want to influence the gender of the character at all, but they have a suit that they created out of a rock substance that's harder than any metal. So it's found really close to the Earth's core. And so they're basically powered, their superhero powers come from this suit. And that's all you know about them. And their name is Gallium. So it's a regular person that made something that made themselves into a superhero.
Yeah, that's
that
right.
old trope.
And their name is Gallium. Who is going to play Gallium?
So for the first one, I would like you guys to cast Michelle Rodriguez.
Done.
Oh, really?
Done.
So she's fresh off Fast and Furious 9 and going straight into whatever this movie's called.
I can see it. She's like a tough character. That works.
Yeah, I like it. I like that a lot.
Okay.
And do you agree with that, Kristen?
Cool.
Well, my alternate suggestion was going to be Rebel Wilson, but that would make the character very different, I think.
Yeah, could work. Yeah. Well, which one do you guys prefer?
Well, let's go with Kyla's because,
The next superhero in the movie is the wind-based elemental superhero. Now, this person is actually from space. They're an alien. They're a humanoid alien. So let's say that they look just like a person, but maybe they have blue skin and orange hair, like neon orange hair.
So thinking Captain Marvel, or I guess that's a pretty bad example because she was from Earth originally, but Superman, Captain Manhattan, Dr. Manhattan.
He's not from space.
Oh, all right. Bad example.
Anyway, but this superhero's ability is because on their planet they're a regular person. When they come to Earth, the gravity is a lot lighter here, so they can fly through the air with the greatest of ease. And they have super strength because everything here is so much lighter to them. So on their planet, as I say, they're a regular person, but here they have superpowers. So who do you want to cast as this highly powered flying alien being.
So they can fly, but they're also super strong.
That's
so
But they're a regular person on their planet, so it's not like they don't have to be overly heroic by nature.
okay. Steve the Hare Harrington from Stranger Things, whoever that guy
Oh,
is.
really?
Oh, okay.
Nice. I like it. Good choice.
Right, Steve the jock guy.
So, all right, Steve Harrington. So next up is the fire-based elemental superhero. Now, this is a Batman-style vigilante, just to give you an example.
So it has no powers.
Yeah, this person doesn't have any natural powers, or they're not powered by a suit, so they rely on, say, martial arts skills that they've built up and their smarts
They hit
to
the
help
gym.
them out. Gadgets, for example, or raw human strength. They hit the gym, as Matty D says. And their vigilante name is Scorch. And now, who would play Scorch?
We also have this idea that this person will have like a flamethrower or something like that.
Yeah, we
attached
thought
to
that
their
they might
hands.
have gadgets that make them shoot flames.
That would be cool.
Something like that.
Okay, so I would like to please cast the young woman who is the voice of Flame Princess in Adventure Time.
Okay.
All right, I have no idea who that is, but I'll go with that. And now the last superhero in our team is the water-based elemental. Now this superhero is a mutant. So I believe when we discussed our plot previously while working on it, Matty D and I decided that they originally were a regular person, but they were exposed to chemicals or something like that that caused them to transform into this mutant.
Like
Now-
Spider-Man is an example.
Yeah, or any one of the X-Men, really. And now this person, they have scales on their skin that are hard as armor, so that protects them from, say, bullets or things like that. They're super strong while on land, and they're super fast while in the ocean or any sort of body of water.
Yeah.
And they also have gills, so they can breathe underwater, but they don't have any issues with breathing on land.
Did you say they can grow their limbs back?
Oh, yeah, and that's right. And they can also regenerate or grow back any limbs that are lost.
We are sick of water-based superheroes not being good on
Yeah.
land, so we wanted to make our
We wanted to make sure that they were useful in any
Yeah.
circumstance.
Love it.
wanted to give them a leg up.
Is it too cheeky if we cast Jason Momoa?
No,
Not at all.
not at all.
He's being typecast at this point. I'm glad that you can live up to the Hollywood stereotype of negative body image casting and typecasting as well. So I guess the industry hasn't changed that much.
Well, I was going to suggest maybe because it sounds like this character could have a lot of potential for comic relief. So I thought Olivia Munn might be a good choice.
Ooh. Okay, we'll do that instead.
I'm happy with that. Even though I
Well,
don't
which
know.
one are we going with?
Olivia Munn.
We'll go with Jason Momoa for
no,
gender balance.
Olivia Munn.
Yeah, let's do Jason Momoa.
No.
Does that mean that how many guys and how many girls do we have then? If that's
It's half
the
and
case?
half.
Yeah, it's half and half
Okay,
then, yeah.
Good, that's
All right.
diverse.
And now, how racially balanced are we there with the casting? Oh, you
We
guys. Well, Jason Momoa. Yeah, I
And
suppose.
Michelle Rodriguez.
And Michelle Rodriguez. Okay, good enough. Good enough, guys. Good effort.
Nice.
That's what a producer would say.
So solid B.
You guys put as much thought in as regular casting agents did. All right. So let's get into our plot. So the movie is going to open with a cold open, because of course it is, that introduces our heroes one by one as they take care of a baddie. Now, who do you think the baddie is going to be in this circumstance, Matty D?
What, in the cold open?
Yeah,
I
in the
reckon
cold
some
open.
fat business tycoon that has a big cigar.
Yeah, maybe they're illegally dumping oil into the ocean.
Yeah. This is me trying to fit in the Captain Planet villain somehow,
Yeah, well, we're not doing Captain Planet.
unfortunately.
So this is where our superheroes swoop in. They all come in one by one, showing off their abilities, and they are able to handily take down the bad guy. And I think we'll introduce the alien humanoid Zephyrus character last,
Because he's going to clean house.
Yeah, he is the most powerful. Sorry, it is a guy, isn't it? It's Joe Keery. Yeah,
And we're keeping his hair that he has in
that's
Stranger
right.
Things.
He's got his Steve Harrington
That's a rule.
Stranger Things hair,
That's a rule.
but it's bright orange now. So they all clean up. The bad guy is put behind bars, and then we get a few scenes where we get to know our heroes. So Zephyrus, who's Steve Keary's character, he doesn't show any emotion because he's from a different planet, and they don't have the human range of emotions on this planet. So he spends his time watching soap operas, I guess, and then trying to learn human emotions and go around and practice on his fellow superheroes, pretending, I suppose, like Data from Star Trek, like he understands and knows human emotions.
So he's very over the top in his emotions. Right, and then we have Gallium, who's going to be super competitive.
Now, this is Michelle Rodriguez.
Yes, so that's kind of works.
Yes.
So super competitive on everything that she does. And we put here that she can be a massive fitness freak because she's sort of chasing this ideal of being perfect. And that's going to be kind of a character flaw.
So she's too competitive for her own good. Next up is Scorch, who is extremely polite and became a vigilante essentially to help old ladies cross the street and to open doors for people. So yeah, this is being played by the voice actor from Adventure Time, who I'm not familiar with. So she was sick of all the just rude people in the world. She was just sick of rude people, and that includes criminals. But yeah, even people who don't hold doors open for people. So she put on a costume and then went into the world just to be a really helpful person. And that, of course, naturally evolved into fighting crime.
Yeah, she's
a vigilante.
She's a nice community-orientated vigilante.
She brings justice to people who don't have access to justice. So
that's my favorite character, by the way.
Yes, if a criminal is wrongly released without charges, she'll go and beat them up, as is standard vigilante style.
So now we have Setos, who's our water-based elemental superhero. That is...
It was Jason Momoa,
Jason Momoa. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Who's essentially like a crazy cat person, but with fish. So Jason Momoa talks to fish, and that's the only species they get along with. And they get along... Yeah, so they don't really get along well with people. So they're more comfortable talking to their fish.
So he has a bedroom that's just full of pet fish. So the whole wall's surrounded by all these fish tanks. And he's always complaining to his other humanoid superheroes that, their conversations are too boring. He can have way more interesting conversations just with his fish pets.
Yep.
All right, so now we're going to dive into the plot proper. So, unfortunately, the world comes under attack from an alien race known as the Eminor, who are robots with living brains that drive them around. So,
because we can kill them and not feel guilty about it.
Yeah, exactly. So, if you can imagine them, they have like robot bodies with like a floating brain in a case at the top. Like that hasn't been done a million times before. And these aliens are being led by their commander, whose name is Metis, who is voiced by Jaimin Honsu, because by law, he has to be in every movie.
Yeah, sorry guys, we had to take this casting from you. He's in everything these days.
So the Eminor blow up a famous landmark. Which landmark do you reckon they should blow up? What's one that hasn't appeared in a movie too often?
Yeah.
Let's do a Canadian landmark. Kristen, let's blow something up in Toronto.
Yeah, let's do a Canadian landmark.
I mean, the CN Tower. That's the big one.
We blow up the CN Tower.
Okay, that's being blown up.
Goodbye. So what was it, the CN Tower?
It's the tallest building in Canada.
What's it?
CN Tower?
CN Tower?
Yeah.
Okay. So they blow up the CN Tower, as you say, and this is a declaration of war against the human race. And mind you, this chaos is being covered by ace news reporter Kristen. That's your role in the movie, Kristen.
All right.
We've cast you.
We've cast you. And she's being filmed by her camera operator, Kyla. There you go. You're cast as well, Kyla.
I feel so seen.
So our heroes assemble to take on the aliens head on, but they are no match for them since the aliens cannot be defeated conventionally, since they essentially kind of every time they get defeated, they kind of reassemble.
Yeah, that's right.
Terminator 2. And we're going to say that, we decided Setos and Gallium are going to realize that they're in love.
So who have we got as Setos? So Setos is the fish person. So that's Jason Momoa, and Gallium is Michelle Rodriguez. So those two are falling in love, which I was kind of hoping for something more, equal opportunity, but I guess just by luck of the draw, it didn't happen.
Two other characters to fall in love.
Jason Momoa and Joe Keery or something like that.
Oh my God.
Yes, please.
That would have a huge fan base then. The character arc of Zephyrus is that they learn that their lack of emotions isn't actually a bad thing and not a hindrance. It's actually a positive asset to them because they're actually more capable as a leader and more capable as a fighter. So
they don't feel fear when going into battle. Rather
than the old, trope of, they learn how to be more human. We're like, no, he was perfect the whole time. He just learned to love himself.
And that's Joe Keery.
It's very affirming. I like that.
He learned to love Setos as well, apparently.
Yeah, and Scorch, my favorite character, we're just going to say that Scorch finally is noticed for their good actions, deeds, and manners. So Scorch doesn't need to, build confidence or do something brave and heroic.
She's finally noticed for her good deeds.
She was heroic the entire time.
So, towards the climax of the movie, our heroes will travel to the Eminor homeworld, and there they confront Metis, and they soon discover that the Earth's government, the whole reason that the Eminor were attacking in the first place, is because Earth's government was secretly stealing the Eminor's ample supply of fresh water.
Yes.
Since
No.
the Eminor planet is entirely made up of oceans, which are all freshwater rather than saltwater. So when human astronauts discovered this, they were like, great, we don't have to worry about using all of our resources anymore. We don't have to use those terrible, expensive desalination plants anymore that are also bad for the environment. We're just going to go steal water from another planet that has heaps.
And of course, in doing so, meant they were bombing another planet, which may be a metaphor for something,
Yes.
we've had in the past years. Who knows?
We're the monsters.
We're the monsters.
So the Eminor's war on Earth was really a counterattack, because the Eminor race are actually more smart and intelligent, and they actually are an advanced race that have already discovered a way to power their planet that don't rely on using up all their resources.
Yeah.
So we could definitely learn something from them.
So when our heroes return to Earth, they overthrow the corrupt world government, including 2 slimy, oil-greedy politicians played by myself and Kieran.
Yeah.
That's our edition of the movie.
I think we could do that pretty well.
We could do that well. And of course, we're going to die in a very embarrassing and humiliating way. And we are left on an ambiguous note, not knowing if this will make the world a better place or not, and if the heroes that slain the corporate world, the big bad government, are actually good guys, or have they just added to the problem?
So all the world's governments have been overthrown at this point. And will the world become a better place because of that? Will we find a way to recover and renew with just the regular person on the street? Or will it be a worse place?
We're going to send people away thinking.
Yeah, that's right. And we're going to point at the screen. The actors are going to stand and they're going to point at the screen and say, it's up to you. The world is what you make it.
It's going to be a Lorax ending, not the movie. The book.
Yeah. There you go. And that was our movie.
Love it.
So I'm excited to hear Kyla's movie then, if we haven't.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot shorter than yours, I think. Yours was very thorough.
Yeah.
That was us doing a short plot. If you've heard our show, you know that we don't do them that short.
I know. I really appreciated how concise it was. Thanks, lads. I only need help with one thing on my movie, and that's coming up with a title. So while I explain it, you guys can come up with your best title ideas and pitch them to me at the end, if you please.
I'm so glad that you glossed over that our movie didn't have a title.
Our movie doesn't have a title.
Okay, so my movie is basically John Wick, except a scientist murders billionaires.
Like it.
Wow.
Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad that I have you so far.
And if that was your plot, well done. I like it.
So the movie focuses around a scientist who is constantly going to talks with world governments and, preaching like, if we don't do these things, we're not going to be able to halt 2 degrees of warming and everyone's going to die and stuff like that. And she's getting more and more frustrated as governments pay like lip service and are like, yeah, this is important, and then turn around and like green light oil pipelines. And she responds to a crisis in Manila where there is a huge hurricane and like 9 million people are suddenly like displaced. And like Manila's basically sinking because the hurricane is so bad, and no other government in the world will take the Manila like residents in. And she becomes very frustrated because she was one of the first responders, and so she's seeing life on the ground, and she's like, you know what? This is fucked, because Manila has a lot of rich people who live in it. And they were the first ones to be evacuated, and they give it out no problem. And then all of the poorer people who live in Manila, they have nowhere to go and nobody wants them. And she's like, fuck this. I'm going after rich people. So her backstory is that her parents used to be like high-flying politicians. So she always had bodyguards, and they were her best friends, and they taught her how to like fight. And so she's really like well-trained in hand-to-hand combat. And she decides to reach out to one of her old bodyguards and best friends for help. So I'm going to tell you right now, the actress that I had in mind for the scientist is Jamila Jamil from The Good Place. She plays Tahani.
Nice.
She's my main character. I just really like watching her. She is very charismatic. And her bodyguard that she seeks out is Sindhu V, who is a comedian who's featured on the Guilty Feminist podcast. That's how I know her, but she does like stand up and stuff. And so I think, but she like has an edge.
That's a good podcast.
Yeah, she has like an edge to her. So I think she could pull off like a grumpy bodyguard who like is no nonsense and like totally badass. So together, they decide to take out all the billionaires. And there's like this kick-ass scene where there's like an underground auction and they're buying like billionaires are buying like children and artwork and weapons of mass destruction. And they go in and just slaughter everyone. And it's really gratifying and gratuitous. There's a lot of violence. This is going to be like maybe not R-rated, but pretty close. Maybe R-rated, actually. Whatever John Wick was, it's that.
So this is Kyla's idea of an ethical movie, mind. The right people are dying, so I guess that's what really matters.
Yeah, so there are it's like a murder montage. It's super badass. There's going to be like a motorcycle chase scene at one point because every action movie has to have that.
Of course. Yes, that's right.
Absolutely.
I did make this an action movie because action movies are the genre where women are represented the least. And where there's actually the least amount of change in the industry. So I was like, okay, I'm going to make an action movie. And then it kind of just wrote itself. So there are 3 main billionaires who are blocking renewable energy investment and trying to invest in like bad stuff that's going to destroy the planet and push us over our warming limits. So she goes after them and they get like the most dialogue and screen time as bad guys. And I've cast Adam Driver, because he's hunky.
Of course. He's going to have to take time from Kristen's plot to come into your movie.
He's a castable actor in this.
And he has 2 cronies who try to protect him but die very early on in the fight, and they are played by me and Kristen.
Oh, there you
Nice.
go.
And then the next billionaire is played by character actress Margot Martindale, who I know best from playing herself on BoJack Horseman. But she has been in a lot of other stuff as well. And I think she'd do a really good job here. And Matt, you are her crony who also dies.
Oh, excellent.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
The part I was born to play.
And then
Do I die, did you say?
Yes, you definitely die.
Fantastic.
You die.
Yeah,
Of course.
Yeah, it's really like just gratuitous violence. And then the third billionaire is played by another comedian who I think would do a really good job, like being funny but also evil. Ali Wong. And Kieran, you are her crony.
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And then after all, like there's, plot, not really. It's basically John Wick. There's not a lot of plot there.
No, there's too much in John Wick.
At one point, the bodyguard, played by Sindhu V, appears to die in like a helicopter explosion.
Filmed with CGI, I'm sure.
Of course. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And Jamila's very upset by the death of her friend. And so she decides to take the fight straight to the White House because they're the ones who are like in the pockets of these big billionaires and they're the last ones to go. So
I hope you're blowing up the White House.
So the president is played by Hale Appleman, who I know best from one of my favorite shows, The Magicians. He plays my favorite character, Elliot. And I don't know him from anything else, but he's great. And you guys should all go watch The Magicians. He plays the president, and I hope he's not actually like a bad guy in real life. I didn't really look it up, but he is.
We'll presume
great.
he isn't.
Yeah, he's probably fine. And his vice president is played by Matthew McConaughey, because I just feel like he could do it, He'd just do a really good job.
All right.
And both of them end up being like really good at hand-to-hand combat as well, and they put up a really good fight, and things aren't looking so good for Jamila because like all these other bad guys are coming in, and then out of nowhere, Sindhu V comes in like through the window, and they just slaughter everybody together, and it's a bloodbath. And a new good president comes in, Dwayne Johnson playing himself.
Yes. Oh my God, we didn't cast Dwayne Johnson in our plot. Is this going to be used for Dwayne Johnson's actual presidential campaign?
Yeah, that's how I'm going to get him to sign on.
So the real president, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, rocks up playing the president.
The screenplay is written by
you.
3 people. No, I'm going to hire people to do this.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to hire Allison Tafel, who wrote the best episodes of BoJack. I'm going to hire Carolyn Taylor, who writes Baroness von Sketch Show, and This Hour Has 22 Minutes. Ali Wong is going to sit in on a couple of the writers' meetings because she's there. She might as well. And I'm going to also get Nikki Yang, who is an artist who also voiced BMO in Adventure Time, to come in and do like the concept art for us.
Excellent.
Cool. You've thought this really well out.
You've put more effort into this than we do in our regular show.
Well, I'm almost done. Don't worry. Our costume designer is my friend Persia. Shout out to Persia. She is very, very good at clothing, and she will get a murder cameo in the movie where we just slaughter her because she's actually an actress, but I really want her to do the costumes.
Does she want to do it? Does she want to have a murder scene?
Oh, yeah, she would do it. She's a really good sport. The composer is, I cannot say her name, but the woman who just won for Joker.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, she just won an Oscar. So anyways, she's going to be our composer, but she's also going to bring with her 3 up-and-coming young women composers, and she's just going to show them the ropes, and they'll all work on it together, just to get some more, like, ladies into that industry. And for the director, I just wrote recent Toronto International Film Festival award winner. So
Nice work.
Whoever we can get for that. And that's my movie. Of course, like you guys, production is going to be totally waste-free. The cast food is going to be vegan and served on actual plates, and food scraps are going to be composted, but we won't punish cast or crew who bring packed lunches with meat in them because this is a democracy. Leftover food from catering will be donated daily. Somehow, we'll figure that out when we start to actually film this thing. We're also going to rent all of our equipment instead of buying new. Costumes are all going to be handmade by well-paid tailors using ethically sourced hemp or linen.
Man, you're really off cotton now, eh?
The costumes will be donated to like schools or costuming departments. The sets and props will also be donated to schools or nonprofits, depending on the items, and they will be purchased secondhand or made locally as much as possible. And there will be reusable cups on set for water, and also we're going to hand out like film-branded water bottles as like a cast gift, or to be purchased by like background associates or whatever for a reduced cost.
Perfect.
And filming locations will be close to public transit, so cast and crew can commute easily, and anything exotic will be digital.
Nice.
Right.
That's my ethical movie.
That's what we want.
Excellent. Love
Very
it.
well thought out.
So what should I call it?
Wow.
Well, I wrote down a few things while you were saying.
Let's
I
hear 'em.
completely forgot we were supposed to do that.
My first idea kind of sucks, so I don't want to go with that. But I was like, time to die, but spelt like the herb. But I was like, nah, not that one. Then I went global warning, but I was like, that sucks too. But
I like that.
Now, the last one is the one I want to suggest. It's an inconvenient ass kicking.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, I'll take it.
Love it.
Well, that's great. I really want to see your movie. And the best part about Kristen's plot is it already exists, so we can just read the book. And I'm excited to do that.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for sitting down with us, sort of, across 3 different time zones to do this. We really appreciate it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I just want to thank you guys very much for having us on.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. This has been so fun.
I just want to thank you as well for doing your show. I think you're putting the word out to a lot of people, stuff that people really need to hear, and in informing people in a really great way. I just wanted to congratulate you guys for doing such a good job.
Yeah, and again, we are massive fans of your show. We listen to it a lot, and we learn a lot of things from both you guys that we weren't aware of. So big fans of the show. Keep doing your work because we love it. And it's really, as Kieran said, just reiterating what Kieran said, I think it's stuff people need to hear, especially now in the world we live in.
Oh, you guys are so sweet. I will take it. Thank you. I also very much like your show, Potential Spoilers, which everyone should go and listen to. I've listened to every episode. The Dragon Ball one, where you guys make up just complete plots to a Dragon Ball.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's a great one. Cool Runnings 2, where, what was it?
One of them's in space, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. It was a space
that's
one.
right. That's the one that people remember.
I mean, mostly you guys predict upcoming movies, but I do really like when you go off the rails too. So thank you for that, and thank you for doing this, and everyone should go check out your show. And you guys can also check out us on the social media that we are very bad at posting on, but all of it is, what is the name of our show? Pullback.
Potential Pullback.
Yeah, exactly. You can tell we've been recording for too long, and we will say goodbye now. Thanks for listening, everyone.
When we used to do our old show with Kyle, the two of them used to eat while talking. Like they'd be sitting there like eating chips and nuts, and they'd be like, yeah, so
well, that does make me feel better. Thank you, Kieran. And Kristen's fine.